Star Wars has a new show that just released called Acolyte, and a lot of people are saying that this is the worst Star Wars show ever produced. Which I have to raise a big eyebrow to because did we all forget Book of Boba Fett exists? What blows my mind is some people still defend that show, saying like, oh, the last two episodes are good, but I mean, let's just go ahead and forget about the other episodes before it, like the Vespa chase scene. God help us all. I'd show you the clip if I wasn't worried about being copyright struck for it, but there is an unironic chase scene in Star Wars Book of Boba Fett where they are pursuing each other on Vespas that probably go about as fast as I can jog. And I am not fast at jogging. If you've seen me do the presidential fitness course, you'll know my top speed is that of maybe a child falling down the stairs, like a very small flight of stairs. I am not fast, but I am confident I could have outrun the Vespas in Star Wars. Point is, recently, Star Wars has just been a shell of its former self, which sucks to see because it's a franchise that meant so much to me growing up and meant so much to me for such a long time, but I just have not enjoyed it in a while. The only things in the Star Wars universe I've enjoyed in recent times were the first two seasons of Mandalorian, the entirety of Andor. Andor was shockingly good, and also I liked the Han Solo movie. That's a really controversial hot take, but that's just a genuinely turn your brain off fun sci-fi film if you forget that it's supposed to tie into Star Wars in any way. It's self-aware cheesiness, and I just had a good time watching it. And I can't say that about pretty much anything else Star Wars has done for the last decade. And for the most part, I stopped tuning in. I swore off the franchise because I just haven't been enjoying it, so what's the point in just banging my head against this wall in boredom? But with the headline of Acolyte being the worst Star Wars thing ever made, I had to check it out. When people say French fry, I pizza, you know what I mean? Like, if something is said to be truly horrific, avoid at all costs, I'm going right over there and I'm taking a big old fucking sniff of it. I've got to know, does the shit smell like poop? Time to find out. I'd like to form my own opinions on it. So, I watched the first 3 episodes of Acolyte, which are the only 3 episodes that are out, and I want to vomit my thoughts into your mouth like a baby bird being fed by its mother here. We're going to go over the good and the bad, and there's not much good. Let's start with the good, actually, because that'll be nice and quick. I actually really like the action. The action in this is mainly hand-to-hand combat, and they do a pretty good job with it. Also, just a heads up, my house isn't haunted. That's not a poltergeist event. That claw machine is almost ready, so right now it seems the engineers are tinkering around with it remotely. So, I mean, it's pretty cute. Sorry, I wanted to see if they won. So they're using the Force remotely to play my fucking claw machine behind me. Don't be distracted. Point is, the fights. I actually liked the fights. It's flashy, hand-to-hand combat and martial arts, and that's nice. There's not a lot of it, but when it's there, it's at least refreshing. It's this welcomed palate cleanser from the very terrible writing that the show has. Like, I don't even think the characters are even bad per se. Like, they could have been pretty interesting, but the writing is so cringe. And I know I use that word real loosey-goosey. I mainly use it ironically, but here I really do mean it. It sounds like they're trying to be deep, but don't know how. For example, one of the bad guys, he's like, "Steel and laser no good against Jedi. Have to kill the dream." And then fucking fires up his lightsaber for no reason. It should be like really cinematic and dramatic. It's just really lame. Like, all of the writing falls super flat. Even when you have characters I think could work pretty well, they just can't write them well, unfortunately. So the show starts with who we think is the main character killing a Jedi Master in a bar fight. And the bar fight's really cool if you don't think about it too hard. She's supposed to be all about peace, but she waits until after all of her friends get their shit pushed in, absolutely clobbered by this assassin who came up to her, letting her know her intentions, like, I am here because I want to kill you. Like, I am here because I am going to fucking murder everyone here to kill you. And the Jedi Master just kind of blows her off like, whatever, punk, loser, get out of this bar. So then she starts killing, or not killing, she starts, annihilating all of her friends, and then after they're all down is when she steps up, and that just doesn't make much sense. Like, why? Like, I feel like as a Jedi you'd probably act before then to protect your friends, and then she eventually dies to the assassin because the assassin throws a knife at the bartender, and the Jedi Master force stops it, and then she takes a knife in the heart while she was distracted for stopping it. So she acted to protect the bartender far more than she acted to protect any of the friends she was with, and it led to her death. She died to basically a small fucking kitchen knife blade. Of course, it's very sharp. It's a real weapon, but I mean, it's a Jedi Master. You don't typically expect them to die to something like that. That was pretty underwhelming. But the fight itself was flashy and cool, but when you really start to break apart like why it was happening and the way in which the Jedi died here, kind of silly. Now, after the Jedi Master's death, they figure out who the most likely culprit is behind the assassination. It's our main character, Osha, who is a former Jedi. Well, she was trained as a Jedi and left 6 years ago. Now she works as basically a ship repair person. Like, she does a lot of, like, maintenance on ships, and the Jedi come up to her, they accuse her of the crime. The bartender even identifies her, and it turns out she's innocent. Osha had a twin sister named May. And 16 years ago, or 15 years ago, I forget exactly the timeline, there was this big fire where only Osha survived. Everyone thought May died. And by everyone, I mean Osha and Jedi Master Soul, who was there and took Osha as his Padawan. He thought May was dead, watched her die, but it turns out May's alive and she's out for revenge on 4 Jedi in particular. So now she's just on a galactic killing spree. Now, initially, when the premise was starting to unfold here, I thought this was going to be like Osha's going to have to go on her own solo mission to prove that it's not her killing the Jedi, it's actually her twin sister who is alive. But nope, the Jedi immediately learn that May is real and actually even get her caught in a sting operation in the 2nd episode immediately. She goes to this Jedi, Master Torben, I believe his name was, who just sits there meditating with like a force field around him. So she's trying to assassinate him, but he's blocking all of her punches by falling asleep while floating, basically. And she's really struggling to hit him. And then she eventually works with someone else in the city, and the Jedi catch her from that. The guy gives her a poison to kill Master Torben with, and she basically goes up to him and is like, listen, Master Torben, I know you're really guilty, which is why you just sit here fucking floating on your ass all day. Like, I get it. I'm giving you an option to kill yourself. And then he just floats down, he's like, thank God. I've been looking to die. Takes the poison and dies. He's like, forgive me for my sins. Dead. Dude couldn't wait to be banished to the Shadow Realm here. Basically, the implication is that he is guilty of some kind of cover-up with their past of that event that separated Osha and May and led to everyone thinking May and everyone else around there was dead. Osha's whole family and everyone around her was killed in a fire, and they thought May was dead as well, but it turns out she's not. Torben had a suspicion that May survived. Somehow, I guess we'll learn later on why he was under that impression. So he just sat in like a suspended animation state, floating like Zenyatta, waiting for the moment where she would bring him a poison so he could take it and die. But if I may issue an argument for anything else besides that, if he was waiting for May to kill him as like a way for him to apologize and give her closure, why wouldn't he just let down the force field when she was trying to punch, kick, and stab him? Why keep it up? Just to prank her? Like, what's the point? Why did he wait for a poison when he could have just let her stab him? I don't know. It seems silly. Maybe he fell asleep at that point and didn't realize it's possible. I don't know. But it's dumb. It's still like really dumb. Like, there's nothing satisfying or entertaining about that. It's just really silly. But anyway, after her death, they eventually corner May. They catch her. They're about to bring her in, and it leads to a pretty good fight yet again between May and Master Soul. Like, I do like the combat. Like, they do a good job with that. Honestly, that should have been, like, the whole focus of this series, because it's the only thing they're doing right here. Also, I forgot to mention this. Coruscant plays somewhat of a big role as a location here, kind of. And they show you Coruscant, and I was so disappointed. It's crazy how fucking over 20 years after the prequels have come out, the prequels had a better, like, visualization of Coruscant than this show. This show has over $100 million of budget to play with, and somehow they just cannot make Coruscant look nearly as good as it did 20 years ago. That's so disappointing. It's my favorite location in all of Star Wars lore, and when I saw it here, it actually looked like they just kept copy and pasting the same building in the background when they did their wide shot, and put no actual care into showcasing how grand this place is. It's just that just really kind of speaks to the quality at which they're satisfied with pumping out the Star Wars shows now. Like, it's so... I have to imagine the VFX artists weren't super proud of it. It just seems like it's pumped out just to get it out immediately for more Star Wars slop. It just feels like they don't put a ton of care into the property. It's just a matter of putting as much property out as possible. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if... honestly, I'd be happier if we got a Darth Insanius solo show. Or a Darth Yucky show. Or even... I mean, fuck it. Glupshido. Give me the Glupshido Grand Adventure. Like, I don't care. But just anything where they'll put any effort into it. Because they have the ability to do cool shit in Star Wars. They showed it with Andor. They showed it with the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. But they just got too much dip on their chip, I think. And now they're just totally complacent, pumping things like this out. And it's not very good. Now, I'll go ahead and spoil this. I don't think it's the worst Star Wars show. I still think that belongs to Book of Boba Fett. But it's still not good. Like, it's still just very not good. The only thing good in it is the fighting so far. And I don't really know how the show can save itself because it's kind of backed into a corner. So episode 3 is the one that everyone's up in arms about. Like, this is the one that put it on my map is like, okay, maybe I should watch this because everyone's mad about how bad this show is after watching episode 3. So... let's talk about episode 3. Episode 3 gives the background of Osha and May, the Force-sensitive twins who this whole show revolves around. May is the villain, Osha is the hero who's trying to figure everything out, like why is May doing this, how did May survive, who's really behind it all, and Osha's working with all the Jedi to figure it all out and piece everything together. And I imagine it's going to get into a cover-up with the Jedi having something to do with this big fire, but I'll get to that in a moment. So episode 3 shows where they come from. They come from a coven of witches. And Osha and May were created somehow. And it's like a big secret among the witches, their creation. So there's these 2 Force-sensitive witches born into this coven, and it's a huge deal, obviously. These twins were conceived without a father, and it's a very big moment in the Star Wars universe that the Jedi also become aware of. And if you know anything about Star Wars lore, you'll recognize that this is very similar to Anakin Skywalker, the actual prophesized child in Star Wars lore. He was conceived by Shmi, who had him without a father. So, like, this big Force-sensitive conception is a really huge deal in the Star Wars universe, I would think. So, the Coven of Witches are about to put them through this thing called the Ascension ceremony. Actually, before I get to the Ascension, it's important I talk a little bit more about the Coven itself. So, the Coven kind of have a different idea of what the Force is. They speak about the Force as a thread, and they try and drop, like, some profound lines about it, saying that this isn't about good and bad, it's about who is allowed to use it, referring to the Force and, like, the Jedi being there about it. And then they also say that the Force isn't a weapon, but then when she says that, this is the girl's mother saying this, the twins' mother. She's the leader of the Coven. She says, you know, the Force, the thread, isn't meant to be a weapon. And then in order to demonstrate this, she immediately uses it as a weapon. She has one of the other Coven members come up to block her Force thread. And she is unsuccessful in doing so, so she gets blasted back. Then she has 2 come up to combine their Force to block her, and it's successful. But you're still using it as a weapon, even though you just said that you weren't going to. And then, a few scenes later, one of the other scenes, they directly use the Force as a weapon, taking control of Master Torben while he was young in this scene, like, threatening him with it. They literally, like, take over his mind, like, actually fucking brainwash him, his eyes, like, roll into the back of his skull and go pitch black, and they use it as, like, a threat. So, like, they are clearly using it as a weapon, yet preaching that it's not supposed to be one, so it's very conflicting there. But anyway, let's go back to the Ascension. The Jedi have been made aware of these 2 twins. The Ascension starts. And this is probably a clip a lot of you have seen floating around because it's very close to being as embarrassing as the Vespa chase scene from Boba Fett. They're doing a chant while the twins are up there during the Ascension, and it's the power of 1, the power of 2, the power of many, in, like, Hadoken blasting force towards the Coven leader, who is the girl's mother. And then she blasts that Force into like the head of the children. Well, only May actually, because it gets interrupted before Osha, and she's like blasting all of that into May, and then she ascends. And I really think that chant showcases how little effort was put into pretty much anything in this show. Like, I don't know why someone wouldn't speak up and be like, hey, let's put a little bit more thought behind this very important chant. Like, this is a huge ceremony for characters that have massive, massive, like, I guess, implications on the entire Star Wars universe, because they were conceived without a father in the same way that Anakin was, and they're extremely Force-sensitive, extremely important characters. Like, maybe we should do a little bit more with this chant that's supposed to be their ascension ceremony. Like, the power of one, the power of two, the power of many. That's horrible. That's like the first thing someone would put on, like, a whiteboard before, like, actually fleshing it out into what the real chant would be. That's, like, the alpha of it. Like, that's not what you should have ever ran with. Like, that's some shit you stick up on a mood board just to get the point across of what the chant needs to convey. That this is a power for everybody and we need to channel it, kind of thing. But anyway, the ceremony gets broken up by the Jedi, and they're trying to recruit these two Force-sensitive twins because the Jedi are recruiting anyone that could be a good candidate to become a Jedi. Osha wants to become a Jedi, even though it means leaving her entire way of life forever. May hates the idea. So they take the tests, and they were initially instructed to fail because the Coven of Witches doesn't want to lose them either, and obviously the mother doesn't want to lose her children. But Osha passes the test. She decides she doesn't want to fail. She wants to be a Jedi, and the mother accepts that. She's like, okay, you know what, it's what you want to do. We're just going to have a conversation with the rest of the Coven soon. And then May and Osha get into a heated argument because May doesn't want Osha to leave. So they're arguing in their room, and May's like, I'm not going to let you leave. And Osha's like, well, you can't stop me. It's what I want to do, and I'm going to do it. And May's like, no, I will stop you. I'm going to kill you. She says that. She says, I'm going to stop you by killing you. So she traps Osha in that room and then lights a book on fire and then drops the book in front of the door, and all of a sudden this entire fucking place just goes up in flames instantly. It's like the whole place was made out of nitroglycerin. And I think it's important that we note where they're located. This is a very secret society that's located in a very, very, very large stone structure that is clearly a technologically advanced stone structure of the future. Everything is made out of fucking stone. And yet, when she drops that piece of paper, that fire paper, everything explodes into fire, flames instantly. So Osha panics. She eventually gets out of the room, only to find that everything's being engulfed in this blazing inferno. And then she goes into like the main area. She sees her mother, and everyone there is dead somehow. And actually, before that, Osha and May see each other on two sides of this bridge that's broken in half and collapsing, and the bridge gives out, and Osha and May are falling to their death, but Master Soul saves Osha, and they both assume May has perished from that fall. That's when they go into the next room and see all of these bodies, and I imagine this is where the cover-up's going to come in, that the Jedi must have done something to kill all of the witches or whatever, and May is aware of that, which is why she's going to kill all of the other Jedi. At least I hope that's the direction they go, because there is no way that May killed everybody there, and there is no way this fire spread that rapidly and killed everybody. There is just no fucking way that that's going to be what actually happened. I think that's impossible. I don't think they would do that because it's so nonsensical. But even the idea that the Jedi just slaughtered all of the witches is also a bit out there, because they didn't need to either. Osha was going to go with them, and she made that clear to the Jedi. So they really didn't stand to gain anything from killing all of the witches either. Unless they really just hated that May didn't want to go with them. But even then, I still feel like that's not a measure the Jedi would take, per se. But the show really does want to make you see the Jedi as being evil, so maybe they would go that far. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But even setting aside the mystery of that, I still think from like the actual core concept of this betrayal from May and this, Breaking Bad going to the dark side is really, really dumb. I'm not letting you leave, Osha. So I'm going to kill you and basically burn this whole place down. That way you can't leave. Gotcha. Like, they did try and set up May as being psychotic in an earlier scene, but not to this degree. They also showcased how much she loves her sister, and I still feel like under no circumstances would you just snap and be like, okay, well, the only way to stop her from leaving is to murder her. That'll be satisfying. Like, then I'll be happy. That'll fix things. Like, that's just not, that doesn't make any sense. Like, maybe there's more to it that we'll learn down the line, but that was pretty clear. There wasn't a whole lot of, like, mystery there. She instantly goes from, I'm not letting you leave, I'm gonna kill you, to setting that place on fire. Like, she says that point blank. So I don't think there's a lot of wiggle room for something deeper there. That's still just really stupid. But anyway, we're 3 episodes deep into the show. It's not good. Like, it's definitely not good. But I still don't think it's the worst from Star Wars. Because at least the action scenes in here are enjoyable. I can't say the same for Book of Boba Fett. So Book of Boba Fett's still taking that big L as the worst Star Wars show, in my opinion. But there's still plenty of episodes left of Acolyte to go. I guess it could get worse. But anyway, I wanted to talk about it because it's being talked about a lot as one of the worst Star Wars shows, and I just had to question it and see for myself if that's true. I disagree to a certain extent. It's not the worst, but it's definitely not good. That's really about it. So yeah. All of you know how much I love fun, bad movies. To date, Moonfall is still the most entertaining film I've ever seen because it is a beautiful disaster of a movie. $100 million budget and not a single thing about it is even close to being good. It's amazing for all the wrong reasons, and it is one of the most entertaining films ever constructed by our species. So I have a huge passion for fun, bad films, so I was very excited to see Meg 2 today because I watched the first Meg. It's nothing special, but it's enjoyable and it's very silly and it's, of course, a bit stinky. It's a movie about Jason Statham hunting down a megalodon shark, so of course it's going to be a bit goofy. And Meg 2 was rolling around and I expected it'd be a lot of the same. Some stinkiness, some silliness, put them in a pot and create a wonderful stew out of it and put a smile on Charles's face. And to a certain extent it did. But it's also legitimately one of the stupidest movies I've watched in quite some time, and in a lot of ways, it's dumber than Moonfall. And I don't say that lightly. To say something is stupider than Moonfall is a bold claim that you need empirical evidence to back up. That's a claim that's bordering on insanity to say out loud. But I mean it, and I'll prove it here when I break down Meg 2 for you. So, of course, there's going to be spoilers here. I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off right now. I don't think you're really going to watch Meg 2 for the story. I don't think anyone's going to this film for the narrative. No one's watching porn for the plot, and no one's watching Meg 2 for the character relationship and the overarching plot. A plot that is so fucking simple, I legitimately think Ed from Ed, Edd n Eddy made it after eating 5 slabs of buttered toast. It is baffling that this actually even made it into the film. It should have just been a montage of shark carnage and Jason Statham going, "What's up, chum?" and then kicking people into the shark. That's an actual line from the movie, by the way. Like, it would have been better if that's the direction they went. But unfortunately, the biggest sin this movie commits is it is boring for about 80% of it. 80% of this movie isn't spent on megalodons or action or characters fighting against megalodons. For some reason, they made the first 80% a fucking soulless, garbage, poorly written, embarrassing, corporate corruption conspiracy mystery movie. And that's using a very generous term for it, because calling this a mystery in the first 80% is an insult to the English language. It's more like a pistory, because it belongs in a toilet. So, the first 80% is dedicated to explaining the world now. There's a very expensive expedition group that's led by Jason Statham, and they do these deep dives into a trench that has these megalodons roaming around, and they're separated from the rest of the ocean thanks to this barrier that they can't cross. There's a very strong jutsu, and the megalodons aren't allowed to either enter or exit, but this team that Jason Statham is a part of is financially backed by tons and tons of doubloons, so many clams. They have so much money. They have a lot of very powerful people financing it, and they also have a megalodon in captivity that they're training and raising like a pet to understand a bit more about megalodons as a whole. Now, the team is about to go on a routine dive. They've done, I think, 26 successful missions or something like that. And this was supposed to be just another standard trip, but things went a bit awry. Now, there's another passenger aboard this ship, this giant, complex, And it's a child that Jason Statham is raising and teaching, and she's a genius. She's a 14-year-old super genius, fucking Jimmy Neutron level intellect, and she sneaks aboard the expedition vehicle with Jason Statham and the team, which he's very upset about. He's like, this is very not good. I'm very disappointed that you've done this. We're turning this ship around. But then they're like, no, we'll just press forward. And so they do. He didn't take a whole lot to convince them. But while they're doing that, that megalodon they have in captivity breaks out. And do you want to know how it breaks out? Well, because there was like a single metal grate, like a single metal cheese grater that was supposed to stop a fucking megalodon, an absolute monster. So it just easily breaks through with literally no effort. And we're supposed to be shocked that it did this. I don't understand how, because it was basically just a single piece of construction paper that separated the megalodon from the rest of the world. So that right there was already extremely lazy to me. They could have had some kind of cool plot, like showcasing the megalodon being really smart. Like, the megalodon set a trap, it played dead, it went belly up. So when they went in there to check on the megalodon's heartbeat, it fucking mauled them all and then escaped. Maybe it grew wings and flew away. I don't know, just anything besides it went through a basically open tunnel that we didn't think about. So, as they're going on this dive, the megalodon that they had in captivity starts chasing them, and they're like, how is that possible? We've got to dive deeper, it's the only way to escape it. So they dive deeper, then they eventually go into the very deepest part of the trenches, and they're speculating on if they should just abandon the mission because this is already not going according to plan. So Jason Statham's like, should really abort mission. And even the main base is like, yeah, probably a good idea. This is already totally off book here. Let's just get the fuck out. But the actual owner of the company, the whole enterprise, is like, no, this is a really good opportunity to explore. We're explorers, god damn it, this is what we do. And our megalodon came down here because she wants to mate. It's mating season for megalodons, and I'm fucking horny. We're gonna go watch. And they're like, well, if you say so, shucks. So they continue to go deeper into the trenches, and then they stumble upon an underwater base. And I shit you not, for about 10 minutes, I really thought they were about to bring Atlantis into this. They were like, oh my god, there's an underwater base here. This is so weird. Wait, I'm getting heat signatures. There's living creatures on that base. And I was like, oh my god, they're going to do Atlanteans here. Oh, this is going to be incredible. But they don't. It turns out there was a different company, a shadow organization that had the same access to the technology they did, and they had this underground base that this team of good guys, the explorers, stumbled upon. And this is where the corporate conspiracy starts to unfold. They start wondering, how is that possible? We're 25,000 feet deep. No one has access to this kind of shit except us. What's going on here? There's fishy business, and I'm not liking the smell. So then we get to go into one of the bad guys' submersibles, and he's like, oh, they stumbled upon us. There's only one option. And then the guys, there's like a team of 3, and 2 of the guys are in these like underwater, fucking Gundam suits, and they're like mining away at barnacles, and they're like, no, don't do it, wait, no, don't do it. He's like, I've got to do it, they've seen us. I'm like, no, please don't. And he just blows everything up, including himself. He doesn't die from it, spoilers, but he blows everything up in the trenches, which blows up the barrier, like the genjutsu that keeps all of the megalodons in the trenches. So he blows that shit up. He blows up the heroes' submarines and everything. And then they're in a big scramble because they can't escape now because their submarines are fried. So they get into these high pressure suits and they start making the walk on foot from the crash site of the explosion all the way to that base that they identified. Now, just to put you in the right headspace here, it's a fucking snooze fest. And it's already been like 30 or 35 minutes by this point, so it's a slow burn. Meg 2 puts the megalodons in the back seat. It puts them as like sidekicks. Like they have cameos in this movie, basically, because they spend the first 80% with this garbage here. It's so fucking boring. But anyway, the explorers with Jason Statham and the child and everyone else get in touch with the main base, like, hey, we're gonna need that rescue submarine. Shit went tits up down here, and we need a little help. This one lunatic blew us to kingdom come. Blew us to high heavens. Our submarines don't work anymore. Come get us. And they're like, we're on it. Actually, scratch that. We can't. Somebody sabotaged our rescue sub. And now you can see all of the complex narrative plot devices coming into play. So then they have to figure out who sabotaged it. So naturally, they check the surveillance cameras. But it turns out our culprit was smart enough to turn off all of the surveillance cameras. But what they didn't realize is they had built in a fail-safe security camera system. So they go and check that. And it's revealed that our man on the inside, our evil person on the good guys team, is a girl named Jess. And she's evil because she wants money. She says that she's doing it because she wants more money than she could ever possibly care about, where money loses all meaning to her. So it turns out what they were doing down there on that base is they were mining rare earth minerals. And I shit you not, when they go into the base, one of the main guys is like, "What is this?" And he's like, "Oh, wait, this is rare earth minerals." He literally says it's rare earth minerals. And it's like, they're probably using this for superconductors, which is good for quantum computation devices as well as all kinds of transportation. This is very important stuff. No doubt, this one crystal I'm holding in my hand is worth $1 billion. And Jason Statham's like, billion? With a B? Like, I think I'm actually quoting this verbatim. I'm pretty sure I've got this right on the money if you check the script. And he's like, yes, with a B. And then that's when Jess is like, billions of dollars are at stake here. And then it gets even bigger because it turns out Jess isn't the only person working on the inside. The main girl who's financing all of this, the big CEO super powerhouse who gave a speech in the very beginning of the movie about how proud she is of this company, she is the one who's pulling all of the strings. She's the puppet master and everyone else is just the marionette on the strings dancing for her. And she's like, why aren't they dead yet? What's going on? So, I want to pause real quick because I'm probably overstimulating your brains right now. I want to point out a huge plot hole that I can't believe no one on the team recognized. The way that this is conveyed is that this is all part of the plan. What they wanted to do is kill everybody on board that main base, or rather, they wanted to kill everyone on board those subs. That was the plan from the get-go, I believe, unless I missed a crucial detail. But even Jess, who was one of the core team members, advised that they pull out of the mission when the child was on board the submarine. She's like, okay, yeah, things are a little off course, should probably pull out. So if their plan was to kill them, why would she advise that? Plus, there was no plan in place. The only reason this went so wrong is because the Megalodon unexpectedly broke out. None of this was planned or orchestrated. And the only reason there was ever an explosion in the trenches is because they accidentally stumbled upon that secret base and mining operation because they were trying to watch some sharks fuck. Like, all of it was pure happenstance. None of this was planned, and yet every step of the way, that evil lady CEO's like, you know, why aren't they dead yet? We talked about this. You sabotaged the rescue vehicle, did you not? How could they still be alive? As if it was all part of the plan. Even though there was clearly no fucking plan. The whole plot falls apart, like, if you think about it for more than 3 seconds. And another thing, why the fuck would the owner of the company that has the access to the technology, is actively doing dives and everything, why would they even bother having a separate shady organization that's doing the same thing but then collecting rare earth minerals? Like, they're making billions of dollars off the rare earth minerals, but they could also still be doing that with the explorer team. They could just say, like, hey, we're also going to send a mining team down with you. Like, I don't think anyone would care. This is a completely separate from the rest of the world region where they're just mining rare earth minerals no one else has ever seen or had access to before. The explorer team would actually probably be pretty excited about that because it's more information and more knowledge for them. Like, they get to take in these things and learn about them. So I don't even understand the nefarious need to have, like, an evil group alongside your normal group. You could have just merged them together without any of the evilness. You could have just been like, alright, and now bring me back some fucking barnacles. They're super barnacles. Those are turbocharged magic barnacles. So let's just get a few of those and we can sell them and continue to finance these expeditions. And I don't think anyone would bat an eye. Like, I don't understand what the conflict even was to even have them as a group in this movie in the first place. There's a single throwaway line that I think is what they tried to get across, and it's from Jason Statham. He said that you're doing this for money. So I guess that's what made it inherently bad and needed to be split away from the expedition group, even though all of their expeditions are also for money. Like, they were also a profit-driven organization too. So it was like a really weird dynamic there. And then there was one line from the evil CEO who said, we can destroy the planet from underneath the trench and no one would ever know. We'll destroy all of it and sell it all for billions of dollars, is basically what her monologue said. And it's like, okay, but also, we never had access to that before, so you're right, no one would know, and you're not really destroying the planet. They were literally chipping away some of the, like, crystals on the side of things. It wasn't like deforestation underwater. It was like actually a very small scale operation with only like a handful of crystals. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal, really. So they did a horrible job of showcasing why the bad guys are doing what they're doing in the first place. So now let's get back to the plot. So they're walking from their destroyed submarines and their high pressure Power Ranger suits to go to their base that they found and then take escape pods to get to the surface. And along the way, things get messy. There's like some deep sea creatures with some sharp teeth that start biting them. So our people start shooting back with their spear guns. One guy gets abducted by a giant squid and he dies. You don't see it, it's all off screen. Another girl gets eaten by a shark, a megalodon. You don't see it. This is a PG-13 movie, so they don't show any of like the carnage or anything. So pretty much every death in this movie is either off screen or cut away from right away, which doesn't make any sense for a fucking movie about sharks killing people and killing sharks in return. Such a huge blunder. I understand why it's PG-13 because it's more profitable to do that because it's more accessible to people, but it still takes all of the wind out of the sails of every single action moment, of which there is very few in this movie. So they're going on this, journey from their subs to the base. They lose everyone along the way except for 4 people. Of course, the main 4, Jason Statham, the kid, the main guy behind the operation, and then another girl who was a big part of the team. So they make it to the base. Then that guy who blew everyone up cements himself as like the primary antagonist who's going to keep clashing with Jason Statham. So they end up fighting on this base. Jess reveals herself to be the person on the inside who's pulling on the strings. She traps them in that base and tries to drown them, but Jason Statham swims, I shit you not, swims with no gear from the place where they were drowning outside of the base to hit the emergency override button and save everyone. He is swimming with no gear at 25,000 feet. Nothing, very few things rather, can fucking survive at 25,000 feet under the sea. And at the very bottom of the list of things that could maybe survive, humans are there. Humans cannot. Fucking everything blows up under that immense pressure. We have never even seen something that deep. And yet, Jason Statham, powered by testosterone and a deep voice, is able to just man mode it and fucking swim like a goddamn angelic mermaid. Just Olympic swim at 25,000 feet deep to save the crew. And they try and give an explanation for it, but I swear to God, I had to wiggle my finger and say, no way, that's horseradish. No shot. Their explanation was something like, as long as he inhales enough water into his sinuses, it will equalize his internal pressure to resist the water pressure and he'll be able to be just fine. I don't have a degree in marine biology, but there's no fucking way, right? Like, there's no way you could inhale enough water into your sinuses to somehow resist the pressure at 25,000 feet deep. There's just no fucking shot, right? Like, I just don't think so. But anyway, he does. He saves everyone. He then fights the main bad guy again down there, who, for some reason, lets Jason Statham live. Jason Statham passed out after saving everyone, and the main bad guy saves him, and he's like, I was in jail for 2 years because of you. I've been waiting for this moment to kill you. And it's like, brother, you could have just let him die in front of you. Like, I'm sure that probably would have been fulfilling for your revenge arc. Or, if you wanted to be more hands-on, you could have, like, stabbed him while he was still passed out. But instead, he, like, wakes him up and then challenges him to some fisticuffs, like it's time to get pugilistic. Only he immediately cheats by bringing out a knife. So if you weren't going to actually, like, throw down with honor, why not just let him die? It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, they have, like, a really lame fight against each other, which, of course, Jason Statham wins. They then get into a backup submarine and escape to the surface. And in the meantime, the main base is being raided by the CEO's cleanup squad, who's come like they're a military group who's come to kill everybody so they can keep the secret that they're mining rare earth minerals in the trenches. But because of that explosion kind of poking a hole in that, protective barrier over the trench, 3 megalodons and the Kraken escape. A giant squid, basically the Kraken escapes to these 3 megalodons and like, uh-oh, we've got a problem. But it's not that big of a problem. So instead the military just keeps like shooting people and taking over the main base. And then there's 2 main people there that escape that are friends of Jason Statham. One of them's very cool. His name's DJ. He's got like a fucking Desert Eagle and he's got like pepper spray and a taser. And he's really cool. I think he's probably my favorite character in the movie. So he has some cool moments where he unleashes some martial arts and he starts shooting his Desert Eagle. Like, it's fun watching him. And this whole sequence is kind of enjoyable because finally it's snapping out of this tedious corporate conspiracy narrative that they were trying to drive home. Now we're just getting into some fun action. We have some megalodons that are now finally starting to do something like eat people. We have the Kraken who's on the loose now. So finally, like an hour and 10 minutes into the movie, we're getting something entertaining. So anyway, I'm just going to press fast forward real quick here. Basically, all of the good guys escape the the main base. The Marines are still chasing them. And Jess, the woman on the inside, turns out was the lover of the bad guy in the deep sea. So he comes back, he gives her a kiss, and then the main evil CEO calls Jess, and she's like, Jess, we're going to need to give you a promotion. We're going to make you a hero here because the public's going to hear about this. Somehow. I don't know how, but they're like, we need to make you the hero here, Jess, so we're going to write you a story about how you saved everyone and saved the world and saved the planet. And Jess is like, that sounds great. And then she gets eaten by a megalodon who comes through the glass and kills her right in front of her boyfriend. And her boyfriend runs away. He's like, oh no, no. So that's how they get Jess out of there. She was a very important person in everything going wrong, and she probably only had like 4 scenes in total in the entire movie for maybe like 3 minutes of screen time. They killed her off in a really quick, comical way. That was self-aware, though. I'm very certain that was an on-purpose gag to kill her like that. So I don't have a problem with that. But anyway, now we're getting off the main base. We're towards the end of the movie. So the good guys are in a little boat, and they're going towards something called Fun Island. Didn't put any real effort into this, clearly. This movie really feels like it's the first product of the writer's strike. Like, this had to have just been written by people on their off time during lunch that weren't on strike. Like, there's no way an actual team of writers wrote this one. I really don't think so. Or if they did, they intentionally made it as unappealing to everybody as possible, because up until this point, it is a snooze fest, and they fucking called this place Fun Island. Didn't even bother to give it a name. So they're approaching Fun Island, like, everyone get out of the water! There's fucking megalodons coming and it's a giant squid! And they're like, oh, it's a load of hooey. You're stupid, we're vacationing, we're having fun, we're not getting out of the water. And then all of the bad guys arrive to Fun Island as well, because they all deduced that it was going to Fun Island, so they go to Fun Island. And for some reason, the fucking evil CEO flies in on a helicopter to the island as well. The central point of the conflict, with all of the fucking prehistoric killing machines and all of the gunfights against the good and bad guys. For some reason, the evil CEO, who is totally safe and comfortable at her penthouse suite, flies here and just sits in the helicopter. She just wanted to be boots on the ground, like feel like she was part of the team, part of the crew, part of the ship type shit. So she flies there in a fucking helicopter just to sit there and whine. Why? Why? Like, it doesn't even make sense in the context of the narrative. She has no reason to be there, but she goes out of her way to be there. And she's there like this, too. She basically fucking teleports there. Like, I don't know how she got there so quick. But she's there, and then she immediately dies. Because also escaping from the trench wasn't just megalodons and the Kraken. It was like not turtle monsters, lizard monsters. So they're these like 4-legged little lizards with big teeth that crawl around. And they bite and kill her. They drag her away. So she does nothing. She flies to the island just to sit in the helicopter and die. But not before she has like 5 other horrible scenes where she's in the helicopter and she hears a noise. And she says to the pilot, she's like, Jenkins, go check on that. And it's like, lady, open your eyes. So like he turns off the helicopter and he goes out there and he dies eventually. But it zooms out from the helicopter, and there is a dead body right next to the helicopter, right next to the evil CEO, that somehow she didn't see? Like, she didn't know? And she's like, Jenkins, I don't know what that was. Go check on it. And it's like, if she just looked to her left, she would have seen a dead body. And how the fuck did someone die there without her knowing about it?
Who was it? Sam Fisher on a stealth mission killed this guy? Like, it makes no sense. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. And it's not just that body either. There was another body as well right next to the helicopter. So multiple people died around her, and she didn't know? Was she asleep? Is she lobotomized? Like, what the fuck? And then eventually she gets ambushed. Ambush is the wrong word, because the thing literally just slowly crawls up to her, jumps in the helicopter, and drags her away. And we never see her again, so she's presumed dead. So she had nothing to contribute to this fucking movie at all. The entire corporate conspiracy plotline has no real conclusion to it. It's all such trash. It's such trash. I'm kind of jumping all over the place now because the movie itself jumps all over the place. It becomes like an actual fever dream. So trying to remember anything from this film is a Herculean task. So the good guys are on the beach. They see the megalodons coming, and the megalodon starts eating people, starts killing people. The giant squid brings down an entire ship and starts, strangling people and killing them, drowning them, eating them. And I shit you not, two of the good guys go off on their own side quest, like into the jungle, because there's like a jungle on the beach there. So they go off into the jungle, and Jason Statham and another good guy and the child are still on the beach coming up with a plan. And for some fucking reason, Jason Statham tells the child to go to the lifeguard tower, which overlooks the water. You know, the place with the 3 megalodons and the giant squid that we're trying to escape from? He tells her to basically go into the fucking water. I'm surprised he didn't tell her to get on the surfboard and, like, start shredding some waves to have a little fun to take her mind off the stress. Like, what is that plan? Like, just tell her to go into the jungle. Like, the only thing that I can maybe try and rationalize here is I'm giving such a charitable fucking goodie bag to the team here, is that maybe Jason Statham thought it'd be more dangerous for her in the jungle because there were some gunshots from the bad guys fighting the lizard monsters. But even still, it's significantly lower odds of getting shot out in that jungle, which is a huge jungle, than it is putting her over the water with the megalodons and shit. But anyway, he basically just sends her to her death, like, as a prank. She doesn't die, spoiler. But he sends her to the most dangerous place possible. Meanwhile, he himself made little spears with bombs on them, which is something that we've seen him do before. And his plan is he's going to start throwing the spears with bombs on them at the megalodons, and he's going to save the day and be the big fucking hero. So the side quest that two of the people go on is to find the helicopter. They find the helicopter, no problem, lickety-split. And then they say it's out of fuel. How could it possibly be out of fuel? They just landed that bitch. It has been fucking planted on the ground and nothing else. How is it out of fuel? Did it just barely make the trip here? Did the lizard monsters, like, siphon the gas out of it because they're addicted to the gas? Like, how is it out of fuel? So then there's an intense moment where they're, like, scrambling to get the fuel hose, which is right next to the helicopter, conveniently. And they're like, all right, fill it up. And then the lizard monsters are, like, charging them. It's like, no, our precious nectar. We need the fuel. It tastes so good. So the lizard monsters are crawling after him. He starts spraying them with the gas, and they're like, ooh. So he's, like, holding them off with that, and then he fills the chopper in between, sprays them, and he's filling the chopper. And then they get on the chopper, and then one of the guys throws a match and blows up the lizards, and they fly the chopper away for literally 3 seconds before he immediately crashes. So, chopper crashes. One guy jumps out, one guy stays in, and you think he's dead, but he's not, because the helicopter, like, basically fucking explodes. The helicopter literally, like, fucking explodes. So you're like, oh, man, that guy died. Rest in peace, man. Godspeed. What a fucking patriot. But no, he's not dead. Like, somehow he survived it. So he's just, like, hanging out in there. So the guy who jumps off is like, I need to save him now. So he, like, swims over there, and he saves him, no problem. But anyway, I'll just finish up. I've been going on for so fucking long here. This is like an actual moonfall incident here, trying to explain this absolutely disgusting, degenerate plot. So Jason Statham is throwing spears at the sharks, and this is when the movie is finally good. Watching the sharks actually kill people, well, as much as they show, which isn't much of anything, is enjoyable. It's fun. You know, shove popcorn in your face, turn your brain off, and just enjoy the silliness of it. It's fun. Jason Statham fighting the megalodons is fucking great. Him throwing these homemade spears with bombs on them is really cool. blows the brains off of one of them after riding a gnarly-ass wave. So Megalodon jumps up, it misses him, slams down, creates a huge splash, which creates a huge wave, which Jason Statham, fucking Tony Hawk, ramps off of, throws a spear down beneath him, blows the brain off of one of the Megalodons, bang, checkmate. Then Jason Statham crashes his jet ski. Oh, I forgot to mention he's on a jet ski, by the way. Actually, that's a very important part. I don't know what you were picturing without me saying jet ski, but yeah, he's on a jet ski. He's not like running on the water, you know. He's on a vehicle. But he crashes, and then he's on the dock, and then the bad guy is there as well. And the bad guy's got a light machine gun, and he's like shooting at him, and Jason Statham gets the edge. He stabs him in the leg. He takes his gun, and this is where we get our really cool one-liner moment. The bad guy's like, "You've got your gun, you gonna shoot me?" And he's like, "Don't need it." So Jason Statham drops the gun, which is so fucking dumb, by the way, because these are just sharks. You can shoot them and it will hurt them. That gun would be invaluable as a resource to have. Having that gun would be so fucking helpful to protecting that child you care so much about and everyone else on the beach that you seem to care a lot about. But for some reason, he's like, yep, don't need it. I also forgot to mention that the child who went to the lifeguard tower for some reason decides that she wanted to try and save one person in particular, so she gets on a surfboard and swims out to her because she was drowning, and then she like leads her to the shore. So that was like a tense moment because like, oh, is the Megalodon gonna kill the kid? No, didn't happen, but just wanted to point that out. So he drops the gun, the bad guy's like, "I knew you were too soft to shoot me," and it turns out this sneaky bad guy had another gun in his belt pocket or holster. So he rips it out, and as he's going for it, Jason Statham kicks him into the mouth of a Megalodon who's going by who eats him. And Jason Statham's one-liner is, "See you later, chum." So that was awesome. Yeah, and then I'll just go ahead and wrap up the synopsis here. Jason Statham starts banging a helicopter blade against the surface of the water to get the attention of the Megalodon to get him away from his friends. The Megalodon charges him. The Megalodon jumps up, about to eat Jason Statham, but Jason Statham drops back, points the helicopter blade straight up, and impales the Megalodon, killing it. Now, astute observers will have, well, not observers, astute listeners will have heard me mention that there were 3 Megalodons and a giant squid. So what happened to the other Megalodon and the giant squid? Well, that third Megalodon ate the giant squid, mauled it, because it wanted to. So that's how the giant squid dies. And then the third Megalodon is actually the one that escaped from captivity that they were trying to train. So the main trainer had his like clicking tool, and he gave it clicks to try and let the Megalodon know, "Hey, it's me, we're buddies, we're pals." And the Megalodon's like, "Ooh, geez, pardon me, you're right. I didn't recognize you, out here in the water like this. I'll be on my way now." So after a couple clicks, the Megalodon just swims past them and then leaves. That's where the movie ends. So, yeah, that was Meg 2. It was a fun, bad movie at the end, but everything before it was insufferably boring bad. So I didn't love it, basically. But yeah, probably the stupidest movie I've seen in a while. Definitely up there. But I do like the last 20 or 30 or so minutes, because finally it's what the movie should be. Fucking silly action with sharks and a giant squid. It's fun. So, yep, that's about it. See ya. Yeah, I saw this movie last night. I'm sure almost none of you had any interest in seeing this, but I still have to rant about it anyway. It's not a horror movie per se, but I think it kind of billed itself as one, so I went into it expecting it to be one, and I think most people are under the impression. It's one of the sillier films of the year. I don't think it's worse than Tarot. I don't think it's worse than The Strangers. But man, this was still so bad. And what's really cute is that it actually has the old lady from Tarot. So she now has an incredibly stacked 2024, where she has now been in 2 unbelievably atrocious stinkers. And that's kind of admirable. And she plays the exact same character in this movie as she did in Tarot for the most part. The premise is cool. So I actually like the premise. The premise is basically Dakota Fanning, she finds herself in the forest after a pet delivery gone wrong. And she stumbles upon this weird building with these 3 strangers in there. And every night,
they have to lock themselves in, and they get watched by mysterious entities on the outside that they can't see, they can only hear. And it lends itself well to some kind of cool mystery. But does anyone care about spoilers? I can't imagine anyone really gives a fuck. Like, is anyone to shake their fist at me like, how dare you? If I get into spoilers? Okay, most people are saying no, they don't care about spoilers. If you care about spoilers, my apologies. You can write a strongly worded letter to the manager. So, the film has a cool premise. And about halfway through the movie, probably not even halfway through the movie, they kind of just immediately show their whole ass and they tell you what the Watchers are. And you get to see the Watchers, and they're basically just like these generic tall slender men. And it turns out they're fairies. Like evil fairies. And then the movie dives into like actual Tumblr fanfic, where it's like, before the war, there was humans and fairies living in peaceful symbiosis. We coexisted with the fairies together. But we feared their shape-shifting abilities, how they could become us. So we ripped off their wings and we forced them underground and we locked them under a stone. And now, they can't leave this forest because we asked them not to, basically. So, what they're being watched by is fairies that study them so that way they can take their shape better. It's so fucking dumb. This is not yeah. So it's not M. Night Shyamalan, it is his daughter. This is a Shyamalan family production, basically. And in classic Shyamalan fashion, it's a cool premise that they had nothing good to do with it, past the idea, like the ideation. So let me just start breaking down some scenes for you. So, shit just happens for the sake of it happening without any explanation for why this shit is happening. So it starts off okay because the premise is fun, and then as things start to unfold, Dakota Fanning is rebellious and she's got a dark and mysterious past, and she decides to start breaking the rules that the old woman has set. One of the rules is don't go into the burrows because that's where the Watchers come out. And she goes into the burrows with the help of this guy, I forgot his name. She goes into the burrows and she sees like bicycles and like children's toys and stuff. And then all hell breaks loose because the fairies start shape-shifting. But they know this. Like, there's no explanation given, really, like a good one, for why the fairies can't leave the forest. They could just walk out of the forest. There is an explanation given for why they can't leave, the humans here, because they're lost and they can't be out at night because the fairies hunt at night and they don't like the sun. They're like fucking vampires. So they can't leave the forest, I get that, that makes sense. But the fairies, the only explanation for why they can't leave the forest is because they were forced underground thousands of years ago. But they could just walk out. Like, there's no magical force field preventing that. They could just walk the fuck out and then dig a hole. Like, they're afraid of the sun, walk out during the night, dig a hole, stay there during the day, get out of the hole, walk out in the night, dig more holes. It turns out there was a professor who built this building and who built this bunker underneath the building because he's been studying the fairies. And this was highly unnecessary to even include in there. They just wanted to make him like an evil guy. He recorded himself with this webcam. He's like, sailor's log, 2009. I started construction on the bunker. I hired locals from the town nearby for fucking 5 schmeckles an hour to build it for me. And I urged them to stay out at night so they'd get mauled and killed by the fairies. Lord, forgive me for my sin. But it's like, brother, you didn't have to do that. Like, you didn't have to just have them die. Like, that's highly inefficient, because then you have to go get more workers every single time and recycle over their dead fucking corpses. Like, you would have to walk over so many bodies for that to happen. You could have just, like, had them do the work, and then had them go home before it gets dark out, and then have them come back. Like, you didn't need that. But it's things like that. Eventually he catches a fairy, and he's, like, training it like a pet. So they're watching these videos of him training the fairy, like learning from the fairy, and then randomly in his last entry he's like, I've got to kill it. I've got no choice. I'm going to take it behind the barn and I'm going to fucking shoot it in the heart. And then I'm going to shoot myself. For no fucking reason. It's like he spent like 100 days with this fairy in a cage, And then he's just like, you know what, I'm tired of playing with this toy. I'm gonna kill it and then kill myself. So he does. Or so you think. So it turns out that fairy was actually a half fairy. Because thousands of years ago, fairies and humans used to fuck. And what happened is, they gave birth to halflings that live amongst us in secret. And that fairy that he captured was a halfling. One that could walk in the day. They called her the Day Walker. Her real name that she said was Arinthabuna or something. Arintha Rancor, Balrog, I don't remember. Something like that. But all of this is just like getting vomited at you all at once towards the end of the movie. It's just like an overwhelming amount of just nonsense. Anyway, the professor eventually in one of the recordings says, hey, I left the boat over there. You can just like go this direction, get on the boat and leave if you want. So they do. And while they're going there, keep in mind, they're fully aware that all of the fairies can change their shape into human beings. This fucking goober here, this absolute imbecile, as they're running towards the boat, he hears one of their friends in the forest and like struggling. He's like, John, help. I think his name is John. He's like, John, I need help. Please, please. And he's like, I'm coming. So he grabs the guy and turns out it's not John. So then he dies. And they take his shape. And then they sail into the town. And then, big plot twist, the old lady was a fairy the whole time. She was the halfling the professor kept as a pet. Because it turns out the professor had a wife. And the wife died. And the professor tried to train a halfling, or tried to train a fairy to shapeshift into his wife so he could keep fucking her. And that's who this is the whole time. It was a fairy. So like his whole thing was like, their shapeshifting abilities can bring anyone back from the dead. Which they can't. It's not resurrecting the dead. It's literally just cosplaying as the dead. It's LARPing as a dead person. So him having this galaxy brain scheme of bringing his wife back never had any water to it, like no salt, because his wife is still dead. You're then just... You have a puppet of your wife. That's it. At that point, just get a doll, right? Like, it's stupid. His plan is stupid from the beginning. And then... she's mad because fairies hate humans because of what they did, which is why the Watchers watch them and, like, kill them if they break the rules. They study them and then kill them because they're mad. 1,000 years worth of bad blood and a grudge. But when old lady is confronted by Dakota Fanning in the climactic final battle, Dakota Fanning's like, I know what it's like to not feel like you belong. Because it turns out her dark and mysterious past is she got her mom killed because they were on a road trip, and she was like a little brat who rolled down the window, and the mom was like, can you roll up that window? And then Dakota Fanning's like, I hate you! I hate you! I hate you! I'm not rolling down the window! I'm not rolling down the window! So the mom's like, what are you doing? Why are you freaking out? And she's like, I'm gonna roll up the window myself. So the mom starts rolling up the window, and Dakota Fanning's character puts her fingers out the window and gets them crushed, and she's like, ah! And then the mom's like, what happened? And then she crashes into a car and dies. So she carries that guilt with her the entire time. And she, like, trauma dumps that towards the end. So then the halfling gets all of that information, and Dakota Fanning's like, the professor never told you? You're half human. And she's like, no, I can't be. I'm so conflicted. And then she's like suffering from the revelation that she's half human, half fairy, and then her wings pop out of her butt, and then she flies away. And now she's looking for more halflings. It's pretty fucking bad. It's pretty bad. But it's not nearly as bad as some of the other trash this year. But I like, there was multiple times where I did this, like I gestured this emote, because they were just making things up out of nowhere with no real payoff or build up to it. They're just like, oh yeah, end this. Oh yeah, end this. Because I said so. Should watch a bad movie in the sub Discord with everyone. That's kind of a fire idea. But yeah, I just wanted to share that because I saw this last night. I just had to relay the information. No, I really think the Shyamalan family has great ideas. This is a cool premise for a movie. What they need, what the Shyamalan family desperately needs, is somebody to flesh out their premise better than they can. That's what they need. Like, this movie could have probably slapped. Artemis Fowl is without exaggeration the worst Disney movie I've ever seen, and that's not a statement I make lightly. There are Disney movies I think sucked fat asshole, but Artemis Fowl is a whole new beast. This thing stands atop the mountain of asshole that's been sucked and is an unreachable level. This is the raid boss of sucked ass. It is truly terrible in every department imaginable. Nothing in this movie makes sense. Nothing flows together. The movie's like 40 minutes long. It's like a fucking speed run of a movie. And by the time the movie ends, you wonder what even happened. Was there a story? Did anything even fucking occur? And if it did, why? It's just a confusing, convoluted mess of dog shit. It is an entire diaper of dog shit. It's truly horrendous, and I can't even believe that it even got put out. This should have just been scrapped. They should have flushed this down the toilet. Something Chris Stuckman mentioned in his review of this film is the teaser trailer for it was almost non-existent in the movie. All the scenes that were shot for the teaser trailer didn't exist in the final cut of the movie that's out right now. There's only like 3 scenes from the trailer that's actually in the movie. Everything else was cut at some point or just never existed in the first place. So I don't know what the fuck happened there. Maybe the movie that got published on Disney Plus is like a rough intern cut for it that they made as a joke and accidentally uploaded. I have no idea. But it is an absolute abomination, a repulsive, putrid petri dish of puke. I can't express enough how bored I was watching it, and then how incredibly confused I was around the mid-game here. So, right away the movie shows you that it's not good, and it knows it's not good. The character, the main character, the lead, Artemis Fowl, the acting is truly terrible, and I don't like saying that because it is a child actor, and I don't even think it's his fault, but there was no direction. It feels like everything that was used was the first take for him. Every single line from Artemis Fowl sounds like it's just being read right off of a script. There's no emotion behind it, there's no like facial expressions, there's no acting, it's just a stoic, neutral face with every single line. It's like in a video game when the animations aren't loading. It just feels so weird. It's like if I was reading the lines. It just sounds like a script reading. It looks like a script reading. It's just weird. I don't know why that would be the takes they'd use, because I'm sure the kid can act. He wouldn't be in a Disney movie if he's not an actor and can't actually act. So I don't know why they'd use only these emotionless moments for like emotionally heavy scenes. I don't think anyone's gonna mind, but I'll get into slight spoilers. There's a character that dies that you're supposed to care about, but none of the characters in this movie have any reason for you to care about them. They're not fleshed out. They have like no relationships with each other that make any sense. For example, one of the main characters becomes a friend of Artemis Fowl after she's been trapped in a cage by him, and then he lets her out of the cage after a while, and she's like, yeah, we can be friends now. Even though she was 3 seconds ago, the scene before, hating him, absolutely fucking hating him, but now they're friends. What I'm saying is there's no reason to care about the characters, but one of the characters is dying, and Artemis Fowl, well, he doesn't care. Or at least that's how it seems, because as the character's dying and the guy's crying, Artemis Fowl, I mean, there's nothing coming from him. He's just sitting there watching him die. He's like, man, this sucks. Bro, you're dying. Dude, this shit. Man, that's tough. You know what? I'll sing you a poem. Then he sings him a poem, all unenthusiastic and monotone, and then all of a sudden the character's not dead because there's a way to not kill the character that makes no sense, which I'm going to get into now because this entire fucking movie makes no sense. Narratively, it's a true mess of nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing. There's a main villain that kidnaps Artemis Fowl's dad, and they're only going to get his dad back if they find the Oculus, whatever the fuck, I already forgot what it was called. It's called Oculus, but they say it like Oculus or some shit. So then Artemis Fowl has to find the Oculus, and then, eventually he finds the Oculus, and he gets his dad back, and the villain just goes, no! And that's the end of that. You've only have 3 scenes with the main villain. The main villain is in 3 scenes that I can remember. Maybe 4, I can't. Honestly, the whole thing just is like this fucking fever dream. It actually feels like a dream. You can remember bits and pieces of what went on, but you don't know why it all made sense at the time, even though it never made sense at the time in this movie. Nothing in this movie fucking works. Things just happen. Let me give another example here. Well, first of all, there's only 2 locations in this movie. There's the mansion, and then there's the fairy universe. So they saved a lot of money on locations because the whole movie just takes place at either of those 2 locations, nowhere else. So they really saved a pretty penny on that, I imagine. That and the CGI, because the CGI is absolutely terrible. It looks like we just went back in time 20 years. This feels like a movie that would have came out like in the late 90s, maybe, as like a straight to VHS production. But that aside, the example I want to give, there's a fight on Artemis Fowl's mansion because he's got the important thing, and now the time freeze zone is collapsing.
And the time-free zone collapsing is a really big deal. While the time-free zone is collapsing, the general of the fairies is getting overthrown by an evil fairy. And while the general's getting overthrown by the evil fairy, the general is getting in trouble because the evil fairy is taking over because he's working with the villain. And time zone's collapsing. The overthrowing guy throws a troll into the house to attack Artemis Fowl, beat the troll, time zone collapse. Now the time zone collapsing is apparently like a doomsday apocalypse scenario. Things go wild, everyone's panicking like, holy shit, this is our last chance to survive. The boy's not going to make it, Artemis Fowl is dead because the time freeze is done. And then in the next scene, after hyping it up and showing how bad it can be, Artemis Fowl and everything's fine. The mansion's fine. Nothing happened. What happens is the time freeze collapses. Artemis Fowl says, we need to find cover. So they run off screen. The next scene, they come out of cover. They're like, damn, that was close. And then right after that, the guy who just overthrew the general fairy says, you know what? You can take charge again. I'm a good guy now. With nothing connecting it at all. He just sent the fucking troll in there. Troll got beaten and now he's a good guy again and they accept him as a good guy. It makes no sense. The movie is a fucking disaster. I'm like, maybe there's things I missed because admittedly I was dozing off occasionally for like split seconds. I didn't want to miss a single fucking moment of this movie, but unfortunately it is so unbelievably boring and uninteresting that yes, I was dozing off a little bit. But that only speaks volumes to just how truly terrible it is because I never sleep through bad movies. I don't even think about it because I am glued to an abominable piece of media. I love it. But this is on another level I didn't even think possible, especially not for Disney. It is crazily shit. It's truly terrible. Plugging this into the moist meter, Artemis Fowl is getting a wonderful 10%. And let me explain. It should be 5, but I'm going to explain why it's 10%. There is an element of this movie in being so bad that it does occasionally cross into the realm of being enjoyably bad. That is the only thing that is saving it from a 5% on the moist meter because there is some entertainment to laugh at. And that's the only positive. That's the only positive. And that's really about it. It is awful. That's it. See ya.